Hello, my love. Welcome to another episode of Blisstopia podcast. I am your host, Mercedes Castellani, and today we're going to have a very deep and insightful episode on how we can shed different layers of ourselves. And this is the part that I absolutely love about transformation. When I'm telling you that I'm all about deep transformation, this is the level of transformation that I am talking about. Because every time we want to introduce a change into our lives, we can typically do this from our actions. But our actions are the most superficial level of transformation. Imagine that there's an iceberg. On the tip of the iceberg, there's your actions. Below your actions are the emotions that created those actions. Below the emotions are the thoughts that created those emotions. Below the thoughts are the beliefs that created those thoughts in the first place. And at the very, very core, at the very, very center, at the very, very bottom of that iceberg is your identity. The identity that created the belief, that created the thought, that created the emotion, that created the action. So every time you want actual deep transformation in your life, it needs to have an impact in your identity. That's when you know it is actually integrated. It is now a part of your life. So let's dive into today's episode. There's a lot of I want to say. And the reason why I decided to share this podcast episode is because I had a very precise feeling in my body. And I was like, this is such an interesting feeling. Let me explore this sensation. And I'm going to explain that in a second what that was through a podcast episode. So, first, let me give you a little bit of context. So, as you know, I'm moving to Paris in a month. And we already packed all of our belongings. We sent all of our belongings to Paris. And we had to really sit with all of our belongings and decide, okay, you're coming, you're not coming. You belong to the new chapter. You don't belong to the new chapter. So we sent all of our stuff to Paris. And now I'm actually living in a super minimalistic apartment. If you've seen the previous podcast episodes in video format, I had some cushions and like a different cover for the sofa. Well, all of that is now gone. All of that has now been packed, and an amazing relocation service is bringing all of our stuff to Paris as we speak. So we did that on Monday. And before that, the weekend prior to that, we spent the whole weekend, all of Saturday, all of Sunday, literally evaluating what was coming to Paris, what is coming into this new life, and what is not coming with us. And I found this so relaxing. For me, there's something about putting order in your outside world that really brings me a sense of order and peace in my inside. So I just love tidying things up. I just love, when everything looks minimalistic, clean, pure. I love, all of the Japanese, just the Japanese, like atmosphere, super zen, super minimalistic. It's probably my Virgo rising. So I'm a Libra with a Virgo rising, and Virgo is all about order and perfection. Maybe it's that, but I've always loved, having my place really ordered, and just for me, it's not about order and rigidity. For me, I feel it more as balance. When things are ordered and balanced on the outside, I feel order, peace, and balance on the inside. So we literally spent the whole weekend. We would wake up at 8, and we would spend the whole day from 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. evaluating every single item. I literally evaluated every single item in my home. Even those things, that are sometimes in the drawer, all of those minor, teeny tiny things that are sometimes around your house, I evaluated each and every one of those. And I have had several years of practicing minimalism. And I was like, I still want to know how many things I can still get rid of. And I feel such pleasure in getting rid of things. So when I started my whole spiritual journey, I really got into minimalism. I heard the Minimalist podcast. If you haven't heard that podcast, it literally changed my life because they really explain, and they also have a documentary on Netflix, which is super interesting. And that's how I met them, through the documentary. And then I started listening to the podcast. And they literally transformed my life because basically what they explain is that first you start evaluating your belongings, which are the objects that are actually adding value to your life, and which are the things that are not adding value to your life. So the first step is you get rid of those belongings, those things, objects that are not actually adding value into your life. That's the first step. The second step is to stop buying things which you know will not add actually value to your life. So they are really against this consumerism that, capitalism actually needs and portrays in order to keep the economy running. But, the system is always trying to convince us that we need more things because we're incomplete. And then we need that extra thing that is going to give you freedom, that it's going to give you love, that it's going to make you feel attractive. We actually don't need any of those things. We are already free. We are already happy. We are already attractive. There's no hole to be filled. So if we can acknowledge that we're already complete, that we're already happy, then the things that we actually do acquire will actually be things that make us truly, happy because they're adding some actual value into our lives. So the first level that you look into when you start practicing minimalism is your belongings. Which belongings, which things add actually value to my life and which ones don't. The second level is your relationships. Which relationships are actually adding value into my life and which relationships aren't. This is a bit harder because, as you can imagine, if you find out that a relationship with a family member, that a relationship with a friend is not actually adding value to your life, it's actually maybe detrimental to your mental health, to your happiness, to your peace, and you come to the conclusion that you need to let go of that relationship. Of course, it's much harder to let go of a relationship than to let go of a belonging that you can just donate or gift or even just throw to the bin or recycle. So, first level is your belongings, the second level is your relationships, and the third level is your identity. And this is when things get really, really, really deep. So, at the level of your identity, you want to start evaluating which bits and pieces of your identity you love and you want to keep, which bits and pieces of your identity are actually adding value to your life, are actually making you happy, are actually empowering you to go after your dreams, and which bits and pieces of your identity are outdated. Maybe things that you're still holding on to, labels that you're still holding on to that are no longer a reflection of who you are and who you want to be, especially. So that's when minimalism gets really, really, really deep. So I've been practicing minimalism, I think now for 7 years, and it's just like a daily part of my life. I love, evaluating things every once in a while, throwing some things, recycling, of course, donating, of course, and just getting rid of what is no longer resonating with me in terms of belongings, in terms of relationships, and in terms of identity. And I'm always evaluating these things. So when I had this opportunity to actually sit with all of my belongings, literally each and every one of them, even, like minor batteries in a drawer, or I don't know, like whatever, all of the minor tiny things that I might have around my place that I used to have because now they're all gone. I was like, this is such an amazing opportunity to decide which belongings, but also which identities that are attached to those belongings are coming with me to Paris, and which of those are staying behind, which of those no longer have a place in my life. So I spent 2 days literally doing this, getting rid of absolutely everything that I could get rid of that did no longer, belong with who I am right now and who I want to be, and the version of myself that I'm stepping into as I move to Paris. And I literally, after 2 days of doing that process, I literally felt like a snake who's changing their skin. You know how snakes usually, they just, at a certain point, their skin grows so much. So literally they're going to let go of that old skin because they've built already a new skin inside of that. So they no longer need that old dry skin, and it sort of falls down. And then they find themselves with this new, fresh skin. And that's literally how I felt after doing this process for 2 days. I felt like I let go of an old skin, an old identity, the identity that had been with me, up until now. And I grew this new skin. And now this new skin is so strong that I can actually let go of the old one. I can actually go around in the world with my new beautiful skin. It's really interesting because I let go mainly of clothes that don't make me feel good, especially winter clothes. I didn't like the textures, or I would just like see them and I was like, I don't want to wear that. Like, it makes me feel terrible to wear that because it's too tight, or I don't like the texture. It doesn't feel good on my body. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to let go of those things. Like, I actually hate some of those winter clothes. And I have other clothes that are like super nice on my skin, that are cozy, that make me feel protected and nice during winter, which is a season that I don't particularly enjoy. So I need clothes that are, like kind and cozy with me, not clothes that make me feel even worse. So I was like, you know what? Permission slip to let go of all of these things that don't make me feel good. So that was like a big chunk of things. Lots of winter clothes that were no longer nice on my body. I also let go of some clothes that were not, in like their optimal state. Maybe like some socks that had a minor hole in them. And when you can still use them, but I was like, you know what? The new version of me, the new, version of Mercedes will not tolerate this, will not tolerate socks that have minor holes in them. So I let go of all the clothes that were not in their optimal state because I don't want to be looking into a sock or looking into a t-shirt and think, oh, this is not like in their optimal state. Like, I feel like I'm in my optimal state. And I want my clothes to be a reflection of that. And I want all of my clothes to be in their optimal state. So I let go of all of those things that I could have kept because I could still technically use them, but it's just not a reflection of the wealthy woman that I am and that I'm stepping into in this new chapter as I move to Paris. And then I let go of so many jewelry that was no longer resonating with me, because back in the days, historically, I've always used more silver for jewelry, but something happened in Madrid and I actually started loving golden jewelry. So everything that I wear right now, all of it is all of it, like earrings and everything is golden right now. So I let go of all of those, jewelry that was not golden, was not gold or golden. I let go of all of those. I let go of all the jewelry that was like, plastic, kind of cheap jewelry that I was still holding on to from my 20s. I was like, new version of me, she only uses gold. So everything that is not gold has to go. I'm sorry. And it's so funny because I had been holding on to that jewelry, like plastic cheap jewelry that I had from my 20s for so many years. And it had been really hard to let go of those because some of them were like really cute and pretty. I was like, oh, but I actually like it. And this time it was like, no, the wealthy woman that I am and that I'm stepping into in new levels, she only wears gold. So no more plastic, no more cheap jewelry in my life ever. Gone. And I just let go of so many things so easily. And I remember how in other moments in life when I moved from Buenos Aires to Paris, from Paris to Madrid, I hold on to that jewelry so much, so much. And I was like, you know what? It's time for this jewelry that does not reflect who I am to go away. This jewelry is it's actually going away. So that's in regard to the things that I let go. Then in terms of relationships, I trust that deep bonds that I've created here in Madrid, deep friendships, deep relationships will continue because there's unconditional love and it doesn't matter where we live, those relationships will continue in a new form, probably, but those people will remain in my life and I will remain in their life. And I also trust that some shallow relationships or acquaintances will naturally drift apart. I've moved several times from different countries and I know that life will do its own process and the good people or the people that I have good relationships with will remain. And the rest is just going to be naturally deleted from my life in a very natural way. There's nothing I need to do. I'm just going to let life do its own job and process. And I know that the deep relationships will continue to be in my life. And then at the deepest level, which is the level of identity, because as I've explained in the very beginning of this podcast, the transformation happens at an identity level that will then create your beliefs, that will then create your thoughts, that will then create your emotions, that will then create your actions. So your actions are the most superficial level, and your identity is the most profound level of transformation. So as I was doing this whole process of, getting rid of all of the things that don't belong in this new chapter, I also took some time to journal, the bits of my identity that were a big part of Madrid, but will not be a part of Paris. Those parts of my identity that will actually stay in Madrid, they're not coming with me. I'm letting go of those. And this is very, vulnerable share, but as you know, we're here for the real things. So I'm going to share in all honesty and vulnerability the bits of myself that are not coming with me to Paris, the bits of myself that are outdated, the bits of myself that I don't like, the same way I don't like some winter clothes that don't feel good on my skin. There's some bits of myself that I not necessarily like, and I'm not bringing them to Paris with me on this new chapter. So, one of the things in terms of identity that I'm letting go of is the single identity, the I'm a single lady identity, which has been, an important part of me being here in Madrid. I arrived single. I met so many different people. I went on many dates. And that bit is no longer part of my life. I'm no longer single. And I'm no longer the single lady, the party lady. I'm no longer that person. So that person remains in Madrid, especially in the very first years of me being here in Madrid. That's no longer part of my life. Related to that is this identity of the party girl. I mean, if you ask my friends, I was always the party girl. I love to dance. I love to have fun. I love to party. But I think for many years, especially in my 20s, I put this identity of the party girl. And the party girl is the girl that you have a lot of fun with, but it's not the girl you actually commit to. So that had been a part of my identity and it brought a lot of fun into my life, but it brought also a lot of suffering. And I've actually decided to let go of that one. Yes, I still love to dance. Yes, I will still go out eventually if there's an important event, like a birthday or anniversary of some kind or whatever. I will be there and I love dancing. So I will be there dancing, but I'm not at an identity level. I'm not the party girl anymore. I'm not going to go out that often as I used to do in the past. And I'm not that person anymore. That's not how I describe myself, and that's not how people will describe myself. Related to all of that, I realized while I was doing journaling that there was a lot of loneliness in my identity. There was a lot of, I'm the kind of person who will move from one country to the other, who has no strings attached, who's absolutely free. But with that freedom came also a lot of loneliness. So now I've decided to maybe let go a little bit of that freedom, commit myself to a man that I love, commit myself to a project with him. And therefore, the beats in terms of my identity that I'm letting go is that loneliness that I felt for so many years in my teenage years, in my 20s, in my super, super early 30s. So that is no longer me. That is no longer me. Because now when you see Mercedes, you're going to see me plus my partner, plus my dog, plus eventually 2 children. So that part of myself that has been lonely, alone, and free, again, with the good parts and the bad parts, because the freedom was actually amazing. But I've decided to tame down a little bit that freedom, but to also let go of the loneliness piece of it. So that's no longer coming with me. I'm no longer feeling lonely because I have all of my friends, my partner, my doggy, eventually children. I will actually at some point be craving for some loneliness. But right now I'm letting go of that loneliness. The other part of my identity that I'm letting go is the corporate identity. I arrived in Madrid because I had a corporate job as a marketing manager. That was what brought me to Madrid. While being here in Madrid, I evolved into a marketing director. But there's a certain way you do things in the corporate world. There's a certain etiquette. There's many things you need to know about politics. And there's a certain rigidity to it. There's a certain pressure to it. There's a certain focus only on the mind, and we absolutely forget about the soul and we forget about the heart. And I'm letting go of that. I'm letting go of that blazer, that symbolic blazer that feels more like like a prison, because there's not many things you can say. There's only certain emotions you're allowed to express, like excitement and joy, but you're not allowed to express that you feel sad. You're not allowed to express that you're super worried about a project. You're not allowed to express many things. You should be always excited and always finding things super interesting. And that's not the reality of it. So I'm letting go the whole way in which the corporate world works and the bits of it that feel restrictive in terms of identity, in terms of emotions, etc. And then I'm also letting go this identity that up until now has been linked to, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in the early stages of business, and the maybe unpredictability that carries, and maybe sometimes the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, and maybe the anxiety that comes with that, and the fears that come with that. So to be completely transparent, that bit is not, it's not easy to start your own business. And I want to consciously let go of that early stage of business identity and step into my business is consolidated, stable, predictable, or a bit more predictable. And just let go of the emotions that are around the early stages of business. So as I was explaining, I had this feeling in my body while I did this process of, letting go of all my things and let it go of parts of my identity that are outdated or that I don't enjoy. And I really felt like this snake with a new, brilliant, magnificent skin. So the question I have for you is, and this is going to be a deep one, but you know that I'm here for that. Which layers of your identity feel outdated? Which layers of your identity are you ready to peel away? Which layers of your identity you need to peel away, even though you might not be fully ready, even though it might hurt a little bit as that skin comes out, but you know you're going to feel much better with the new skin. So I'm going to leave you with those questions. If you want to journal this week on that, which layers of your identity feel outdated, you are ready to let go, and which bits you would like to consciously let go at an identity level. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's been a short but really deep episode because, as you know, once more, identity is the deepest level of transformation. So if you are ready to let go of layers of your identity that you don't like anymore, that feel outdated, that don't match with your vision, that don't match with your future self, and you're ready to do that deep process of transformation, then I'm your girl. I'm your coach. I want to work with you. You're my girl. Let's work together. Because this deep level of transformation at an identity level is what is going to allow you to manifest your dream life, whether that's your future relationship, finding your purpose, creating your own business, having a new dream job, calling in more abundance into your life. All of these things happen at an identity level. So I'm opening up coaching spots for October. There's going to be a couple of coaching spots. I like to keep things very intimate. So I only open a handful of spots every month. If you want to book and you want to have one of those spots for yourself and you want to do this deep, deep inner work with me, I would be honored to serve you. All you need to do is find the link in the show notes, book a discovery call. We will get to know one another. We will understand if it's a fit. You will explain me your situation. I will explain how the coaching process works. And then if we both decide and agree that it's a match, that we like each other and we think, that this is the right container for you, then we will work together for 4 months and we will be able to let go of those things that are no longer, in alignment with who you want to be and all the beautiful things you want to manifest in your life. So book that discovery call. I will love, love, love to have you on the phone. We're going to do a Google Meets. So I would love to see you in there. And I will see you in the next episode. And in the meantime, in Blisstopia we trust.